Daily walking close to thee.
My name is Lara Tipton.
And I'm Jack Tipton.
And we're here to share a little bit about our story. I was born and raised here in Lawton, Oklahoma. I was adopted at birth. My story is probably a little more unique than some in the respects that I wasn't adopted maybe necessarily in the most loving home environment, which may sound strange for people who have adopted, who have wanted to adopt, who have had that desire. But I was adopted into a home of a manic depressive person, and my parents split up when I was 12, and I was left in the home with my mother, who was a manic depressive. Really took me to a place where I felt like my life was done. I felt like there was no one for me. I didn't feel like there was family. I felt like there were friends, but on a surface level. I don't want to sound like I had pity for myself, but I just didn't think that anything good could come from my life, because it really hadn't been a good life for me, especially at home. I really came to my lowest low, and that's when the Lord spoke to me, and I knew He was there for me, and I knew He had a different plan.
My upbringing is a little different. I was adopted at 3 months old. I was born in New Orleans and eventually moved to Nashville and grew up there. My parents were very much involved in the church from birth. We were there pretty much. The doors were open. We were at church, and Laura and I met at a dentist office where she worked. I was going in for teeth cleaning, and
I stalked him for a while. We struck up a conversation, and one time, and we talked about golf, and some mutual friends got us together, and we started dating, and we dated from that moment on. I think in terms of healing and what He provided to me or for me after the abuse, just showing that you could trust a man again, just to know somebody loved me. I think I had not ever experienced that my whole life. I know my mother loved me. I'm not going to sit here and say she didn't, but I didn't ever feel loved. There was never a birthday acknowledged. There was never, she didn't come to any school events. I was very involved in school. She never came, and I think that was maybe even struggles for Jack and I early on, because I didn't know how to accept that He wanted to be there for me. I didn't know how to accept that He loved me and that He did care what I was doing. I even remember Jack reading scripture with me about God's love. So it took a lot of prayer and talk and convincing to show, for me to understand that I could be loved, and most importantly, that God loved me. That was the key to it. And that's what I feel like Jack brought to our relationship.
I just prayed daily that, I knew she had been hurt before through the abusive situation, and then with just her parents, not truly loving her the way they needed to love her. But I just knew it was my job as the husband to support her and to make sure that she knew she was loved.
That's what another huge blessing in my life is Jack's faithfulness. His faithfulness to our marriage, to our family. We've been so blessed. And to look back, a lot of people could look at my life and things that have happened in my past and think, how can she sit there and say that? But I look at it now as, by the grace of God, I was saved. I could have been on the streets. I could have done drugs. To think that I'm in a sound family and involved in church and teaching children now, I think it could have gone a totally different way, and that was totally God's grace. I mean, it started with Jack, and then we found a church home, and I didn't really know, seeing that I had only been to church through the age of 8, what it was to have a church family. Jack went through a job loss that was devastating for us and devastating for him especially, and the way the church rallied around us and loved us, it was amazing.
It's just amazing how much Lara and then just friends have supported us when I had my job loss, and then just through every other situation that we've had with all the issues with both the kids during pregnancy, and our friends and family just kind of surrounded us and supported us during that time.
Again, it took a while for me to understand, why are these people, these strangers, so to speak, loving on us in this way? And God really, I mean, it's just, God poured out his love on us through our church family. And we've been so blessed. And I remember seeing pictures at his apartment. We'd been dating for a while, of his family, and we'd never discussed the fact that I was adopted. I mean, I guess it's just not one of the first things that comes up in a conversation. And I said, well, you don't look like your parents or your sister. And he said, well, that's because I'm adopted. And it was kind of an amazing moment, because I was like, well, so am I. And he was like, well, good, because you don't look like your mother either. You know, it's ironic with both of us being adopted. I was scared to tell Jack when we were, you know, contemplating marriage, praying about getting married, to tell him that I wouldn't be able to have children, because I had already been told that I would never have children, that I wouldn't be able to conceive or carry a child. Some of it stemming from the abuse that I had suffered early on. I remember having that conversation and being so nervous, and Jack saying, that's all right, we're adopted, and so that's probably the plan God has for us, and that's just what we'll pursue. Even though our stories are very different and our lives were very different in upbringings, I'm just amazed at where God has brought me. 3 months after we were married, we found out we were expecting our first child. You know, for God to hand us that gift of that first child 3 months after we were married was amazing for us. It was the first thing that Jack and I had that, you know, was a part of us. And not that I take anything away from children who are adopted, because it is the most amazing gift I feel like a birth mother can give to a child, by giving them up to a family who can love and nurture them. Even though that wasn't particularly my situation, I would say in 98% of the cases it is. It goes back to the gift God gave us with his son. But to find out that we were having our own was amazing, and to hold that child for the first time, it's a unique experience to both be adopted and finally hold your own flesh in your arms. I just think it's an incredible testament to what the Lord can do. He can work miracles. And I think we hear of the miracles that are in the Bible from days past, and we forget that miracles are happening every day in front of us. And my miracles are not only my 2 boys, but my wonderful, loving husband.